20,000 bodies, not fallen in battle, they formed concentric circles like the rings of a grotesque garden. He clung to his identity with defiance that brought punishment, and the punishments were not mild. Beatings that split the soles of his feet, days suspended in agony, isolation in darkness, hunger that hollowed the body and sharpened resentment. But worse than the pain was what he was forced to witness: executions. Public impalements reserved for enemies who required spectacle. Prisoners seated upon oiled stakes, their own weight drawing the wood slowly upward through muscle and bone. Vlad watched carefully. He saw that a blunt stake prolonged life, that the angle determined survival, that the human body, arranged with precision, could endure for days.
He was barely 12 years old, memorizing the mechanics of agony. Then news reached him from home. His father murdered, his older brother captured, blinded with hot irons, buried alive while still breathing. 16-year-old Vlad did not weep. He asked how long his brother had survived beneath the earth. Captivity did not break him, it refined him. When he was finally released and sent back to claim his father's throne, he carried with him more than ambition. He carried a blueprint. He had learned that fear was stronger than loyalty, stronger than love, stronger than gold. And when he seized power again in 1457, he decided to build a kingdom that would never betray him. He began with a feast. On Easter Sunday, hundreds of noble families gathered in celebration. Wine flowed, music echoed through the hall. The men who had shifted allegiances for decades laughed and toasted the new ruler, believing they would simply adapt as they always had. Vlad rose from his seat and asked them a simple question. "How many princes have you served?" Some answered 5, some 10. A few admitted they had survived through 30 reigns. Each answer was an admission of betrayal. With a single signal, soldiers flooded the hall. The old and infirm were dragged outside and impaled before sunset. The young and strong were marched north to rebuild a ruined fortress high in the mountains. They worked until their clothes rotted from their bodies. When they collapsed from exhaustion, they too were lifted onto stakes. This was not revenge alone, it was policy. Vlad believed terror was the purest form of order. If fear was absolute, crime would vanish. If punishment was unimaginable, rebellion would dissolve before it formed. And for a time, it worked. Merchants reported that a golden cup could sit untouched at a public fountain because no one dared steal under his rule. Roads were safe, laws were enforced with brutal consistency. But the cost was measured in bodies. When the city of Brashov defied him, he answered not with negotiation, but annihilation. Streets became corridors of execution, churches blackened with fire, entire families impaled in careful rows, arranged so the dying faced one another. He was not content to command these spectacles from afar. He attended them. He dined among the dying, unbothered by the stench, studying their endurance. When one noble complained about the smell, he had him raised higher than the others. "Now," he said, "you are above it." His cruelty evolved. Stakes through mouths for liars, through skulls for thieves, through wombs for women accused of betrayal. He refined angles, adjusted methods, sought longer survival times. Execution was no longer merely punishment, it was expression. When Ottoman envoys refused to remove their turbans in his presence, citing religious custom, Vlad smiled. He praised their devotion.
Then he ordered iron spikes driven through cloth and skull alike, fastening the turbans permanently in place before sending the men back to Constantinople. Message delivered. And so the Sultan marched. An army numbering in the hundreds of thousands advanced toward Wallachia, determined to crush the defiant prince once and for all. Fields were burned before them, wells poisoned, villages emptied, disease spread through their ranks. Then came the night attack, Vlad leading a desperate assault under darkness, cutting through tents in search of the Sultan himself. He nearly reached him, nearly ended the war in a single stroke. But in chaos and shadow, he struck the wrong pavilion. By morning, the Ottoman army pushed forward, and then they saw the forest. 20,000 stakes, 20,000 bodies. The greatest conqueror of his era surveyed that landscape of deliberate horror and understood something few rulers ever admit. This was not a man fighting for territory. This was a man who had embraced monstrosity as strategy. And for the first time in his life, the conqueror hesitated.
The Sultan stood at the edge of that field and understood something that no map could measure. Armies could be defeated, cities could be rebuilt, empires could rise again from ash. But how do you conquer a man who does not fear becoming a monster? The forest stretched for miles, bodies arranged in deliberate symmetry, high-ranking officers elevated at the center like grotesque monuments, common soldiers forming outer rings. The geometry was intentional. Almost by late summer of 1462, Vlad was fleeing north, seeking support from the Hungarian king. Instead of reinforcement, he found betrayal. Arrested and imprisoned for years, the invasion, a ruler who imposed order so absolute that theft vanished and borders held. It requires opportunity, power, and a mind willing to treat suffering endures. Not because of vampires or legends, but because it forces an uncomfortable truth. The worst horrors are not born in darkness. They are born in childhood wounds, sharpened by power and unleashed without restraint. 20,000 stakes rising from the earth. Not just a warning to an empire, a warning to us.